Chapter 5. Okay, now stand still. Still, Cabron! Nadia frowned as another shiver ran through the familiar's body. Thankfully, the glass jar held between Cabron's fingers was unmoved. Nadia bent down, tracing another rune in blue chalk. Rain summoning was difficult, especially when such precision was involved. For it to rain in a perfectly circular area, and for so little time, was no easy task. Nadia gently laid her hands on Cabron's shoulders, feeling his heartbeat thrumming beneath her fingertips. Up above, she felt the soft hum of a rain cloud approaching, slowly rolling over the still mountains. Farther ahead was a distant, but strong, electrical charge, an oncoming storm. No, she didn't want that. As unruly a beast as a lightning storm could be, perhaps another experiment could utilize it. The tamer rain cloud would do for now. She inhaled deeply. It was hard to describe what she was doing, though she'd imagined telling her parents, if they ever asked, or decided to visit her. Nadia wasn't using her hands to draw the cloud forward. She used her magic, almost as if reeling in the rain cloud on the end of an imaginary fishing rod. Having a familiar gave her the extra reach she needed to bring it to her. Cabron twitched a little with the strain of her magic. The air felt heavy. Nadia opened her eyes, grinning at the white cloud nearly on top of them. She stepped outside the circle. "Hold the jar up so you can get some of the water. Fill it quickly, and remember about the other jar at your feet." Nadia watched the first few raindrops hit Cabron's nose, steadily falling faster till her familiar looked like a drowned goat. The jars were soon overflowing. Cabron placed one jar outside of the circle and knelt in front of the remainder. Nadia dug her hand into the container at her feet, fist streaming with red dust. As she said a few words under her breath, the dust began to glow, and she quickly threw the dust into the 2 jars. She waved Cabron closer, holding his hand tight as the difficult part of the ritual approached. "Come on, come on, come on, come on," Nadia muttered under her breath, watching the jar for any movement other than the raindrops disturbing it. Wordlessly, the water began to reverse its trajectory. Rain fell upwards, rejoining the cloud hanging above. Cabron grinned as the water lifted off his hair and clothes, rejoining the other droplets. With a grace Nadia prided herself on, the water swirled upwards in a beautiful dance, followed lastly by the mixture occupying the jar inside the circle. First water and then the red dust, already bonded to some of the water, drifted upwards, absorbed by the amorphous blob of a cloud. Nadia stepped outside the circle. With more words, the dust water in the other jar glowed, and with it the cloud above. It was invisible to most eyes, but she was looking for it, the trace of her magic. She almost wanted to whoop with joy and pride, throw herself about, but such behavior was unbecoming. Nadia also found herself terribly exhausted. She allowed herself a simple smile. "Come on, inside." She waved Cabron over to the door, gray steel that barely stood out from the rest of their surroundings. Somewhere, under many thick layers of snow, was a supposedly white roof that didn't help. Snow was piled around the roof in large heaps, as if someone had tried long ago to clear the roof with little success. "Come on, open it! I'm freezing!" The chill was setting in, and Nadia felt too tired to cast a heating spell. Cabron frowned and tugged on the door again. He stood back and shrugged. "Seriously? I thought you were supposed to be strong." Nadia shivered as her fingers curled around the icy handle. Without even tugging, she could feel the firmness behind it, the way the door had no give. Nope, this door really isn't moving. She couldn't tell if it was frozen or if it simply locked from the inside. Probably both, considering how run down this place seemed to be. Nadia opened her mouth and wordlessly closed it. She repeated the action, glancing about the snowy roof before turning back to Cabron. "Was there another door?" Cabron shrugged, ever the man of no words. He took Nadia's hand in his, skimming his rough fingers across the smooth flesh of her hand, stained red by the dust. She jumped back, but he simply turned away to trace a reddened finger across the door, leaving a stain that stood out amongst the whites and grays. Are you asking if I could magic it open? Cabron nodded enthusiastically. Nadia rifled through her pockets. She had a remainder of the roglep dust from the ritual, yes, but that was all. The stores in the upper study had been meager, and she hadn't thought to bring any extra with her outside. She called on her knowledge of roglep dust's uses. Her teacher's lectures came back to her. Roglep dust, named for its blood-red color, is traditionally a binding agent in tracking spells and curses. Roglep dust is also commonly used in delicate potions to ensure more stability between volatile ingredients. Since roglep dust is a binding agent, one could bind together volatile ingredients for future use, and then pull out the roglep dust, causing a possibly explosive or corrosive reaction due to the sudden lack of a binding agent. If this door has ever come into contact with magical ingredients, we can make them active via this process, and possibly blow up the door. Nadia laughed a little as she babbled incessantly. Looking back, she found Cabron, arms crossed, eyebrow raised, and a smirk visible. His face was the most smug she'd ever seen. Or we could open it via that method. I don't know how big this reaction will be. She waved Cabron over, placing a hand once more on his shoulder. Nadia smeared dust on the doorway before muttering under her breath, watching as the dust glowed and began to flow through the air, out of the little nooks and crannies of the door's hinges, out into the open air, and back into her bag. As the glowing subsided, Nadia listened, waited. She took a half step back. She heard a faint hiss. "It's gonna—" Boom!